The following episode most likely contains graphic language, details of violence, and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 64 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
What's up, everybody?
So we still talk murder, but we haven't been talking about it and recording it. So we have been away for a while. So we're back.
We've been definitely gone longer than we said we would be.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry if you guys can hear my heavy breathing, even after I only do like one or two words, because I am severely out of breath because I am super duper pregnant. I just walked into the studio and Dan was very surprised by how pregnant I was. So yeah, but Mom did not walk into the studio today. So it's a little bit different. So I guess we have some updating to do for everybody. Mom?
We definitely have some updates. I am joining remotely because I moved to the U.S.
Yes, I'm an orphan.
So, yeah, Danika's an orphan, but things are going well in my immigration process, so that is awesome.
Yay.
But that's why we've been so busy. Danika's been busy creating a human, and I've been busy raising some chickens and having a garden and not working and being not allowed to leave the U.S. during my immigration process. So that's where we're at.
Yep. And I have been, like Mom said, creating a human. Also, this pregnancy is kicking my ass. And I don't know if it's only because, every pregnancy is different. I'm a little bit older than the first couple times I did it. But also, it's like having a toddler when you're pregnant is...
Well, and you have an extra toddler, too. Your toddler's extra. And you are old now. So.
Yeah, I know. So, 33. Way older than I was the first time around. And a couple years older than the second time. So, we are back, though. I'm not going to say for how long because I don't know. Like, this baby's supposed to come in a couple weeks. But we're going to try to get as many episodes out for you guys in that time that we can. So, until the end of summer, you guys will hopefully hear another episode from us. I love how I'm already on the first episode back. Like, well, we could be not back, so...
I think everyone's just going to, like, when we pop up on their new episodes, they're going to think it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, what?
But, okay. So much has transpired since we've been gone. I think episode 63 we released in, like, March.
It was March 3rd when we recorded it, and I think it released that week.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. It's been a minute.
It's been a couple minutes. But thanks for being so understanding. All of our listeners, we love you guys. You guys know that. And again, if we've said this before a million times, if we're not in the, we can't get the episode out. We can't get the episode out. We know you guys understand, and that's why we love all of our listeners. So, but yeah, we've been a little busy. So Mom's had all her moving and all her, like, total life, like, your life just moved to a different country. And
yeah, it's definitely been a reset for sure.
To say the least. But like I said, we, in the true crime things, and also I think being pregnant this time, I'm a little bit anxious and, like, talking about, like, people passing away, which normally, again, true crime and all the things that go with it are, like, that's my jam. Always has been, obviously. I have a podcast about it. But yeah, this time I've been a little bit like, I can't think of it.
Oh.
Well, because I'm always like, I think I'm going to die. So anyway, we're just going to ignore that part for today. I'll just make Mom read all the parts that I'll just be crying.
The whole episode.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk this episode. But yeah, so there has been quite a few things that have happened in the true crime community. One thing that we were kind of all looking forward to this summer was the trial of Bryan Kohberger. So Bryan Kohberger originally his trial was scheduled for August of 2025 for the murders of the University of Idaho students, roommates Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Xana's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, who were all stabbed to death at the girls' off-campus house in the early hours of November 13th, 2022. So we kind of covered this somewhat on episode 42, but in that episode we had said like we were hoping to bring more information as the trial kind of started happening, and the trial was pushed back so many times, and there was a gag order, and so there was like no information. It was kind of like whatever we could piece together and, you know, things we would read. So, but he took a plea deal. So he, by pleading guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, he avoided the death penalty and waived his right to appeal. So, Mom, you want to read this part? I'm out of breath.
Kohlberger formally entered his plea on July 2nd in a Boise courtroom before Judge Hippler, confirming he committed the murders. And if you've listened to this, it's crazy. It's on, you can find it online.
Yeah, he's just basically like, guilty.
Yeah. And yep.
Like
he was admitting to tying his shoe, really. So he admitted to the murders willingly, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought. As part of the agreement, he's set to receive 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years for burglary with no chance of parole or appeal. So this plea effectively eliminates the need for a trial, ensuring a definitive outcome while sparing the victims' families and a potentially painful courtroom process. Some of the families of the victims are mad that there's not going to be a trial, and some of them are relieved that there's not going to be a trial.
which I could totally see both sides, because obviously, like us, I mean,
100%.
I am very curious, right? I hope that because he took a plea, they kind of force him to say, what was his motive? Why did he do this? What was all the reasoning behind the things that makes us love true crime, of like, why did you do what you did? Or what the fuck? You know?
Well,
like,
and it was such an obscure, like, the victims were not personally known to him. Like,
well, that
he
we know
was,
of. Exactly, right?
yeah,
That's
like,
why
I
it's
mean,
like,
we all suspect that he was stalking them from afar, and, you know, there's been so many rumors and different
mhm.
things that have been thought that, yeah, it would be really nice just to get it from his own words, but I personally don't think that he's going to do that.
No, I don't either. And I think, like Mom mentioned earlier, there's actually a new documentary on Prime about the Moscow murders.
It's called One Night in Moscow.
And I think that has a little bit more details because, like we said, there was a gag order, so we couldn't talk about anything. And so most of the things you were reading or hearing were rumors, right? It was just that. It was like kind of people, and especially with the internet, like we're 2025, people are on there. There's you know, all these different people trying to figure out, people are trying to piece together what they think happened, and then that kind of gets convoluted and turned into like all these different things. Is that true? Is it not? Is it, you know? So hopefully there's some answers for the families, but I really don't think there's any appropriate answer for what he did.
No,
Right?
and I mean, the documentary, the new one, actually addresses how much the rumors and speculation affected everyone that was already grieving the loss of their loved ones, and it really goes into that. So it's a really good documentary. I highly recommend it.
Well,
Hopefully
and
y'all can get it in
yeah,
Canada.
yeah. I'm like, oh God. Every time she's like, there's a new documentary, and I like go to look for it. It's like, this is not available in your country. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just have to come to your house and watch it.
Yep.
But also, I think that with that whole thing there is so much speculation because people, like I said, we're not the only people that are obsessed with true crime, right? There's so many people, and when something like that happens, there's so like you want answers because it's like, why would you do that? Why would you go into a home and kill all these innocent kids? You know,
It's
like
so
young adults.
senseless.
It's senseless, but I think that's how the way that the human mind works. We want answers for the things that we don't have answers to. And now it's kind of like, okay, well, again, I see both sides. I see why some of the families are like relieved because they don't want to see the photos. They don't want to see, you know, relive it, even though I'm sure they relive it every day. But yeah, so, and then some of the families, obviously, I know Kaylee Consalves, her family fully is trying to give the GoFundMe back. Like, because
Yeah,
the
because it was for
GoFundMe,
the trial.
yeah. So, I mean, there's so many layers, right? But today's episode is going to be another thing that happened while we were, not recording. Um, and so since we've been away, it was a major event that occurred right here in our own city. So mom's not far, but she's not in the city. But when this happened, it shook our entire community and us, even with mom being away, personally, like to our core. And it really exposed the deep cracks in not only our mental health system, our justice system, and our public safety systems. So on April 26, 2025, during the Lapu-Lapu Day Street Festival in Vancouver's Sunset neighborhood, what began as a joyful celebration of Filipino heritage turned into a tragedy. At approximately 8:14 p.m., as the last concert just finished and festival goers were taking their time leaving and enjoying a nice evening, strolling around the grounds, a black Audi Q7 SUV drove into the crowd at high speed, striking dozens of festival goers standing in the food truck row. The impact killed 11 people and injured more than 30 others, including entire families and young children. It's considered the deadliest attack in Vancouver's history.
The man behind the wheel was 30-year-old Kai G. Adam Lowe. He's a Vancouver resident with a long documented history of mental illness. He had previous interactions with police and had been under the care of a community mental health team. But at the time of the incident, he was not flagged as a risk. Lowe was detained by brave bystanders and arrested shortly after. He now faces multiple counts of second-degree murder. Authorities have ruled out terrorism, citing mental health as a major factor in the attack. This is just
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, just as we watched it unfold and you're seeing photos of him, being detained by the public, you
And
know?
videos of like direct aftermath of like right away. If we live in the time where people have their phones with them, people are filming, people are showing exactly what happened. Like it was unbelievable.
It was. Among the victims were 47-year-old Richard Lee, a real estate professional and dedicated badminton and tennis coach. He is remembered as being a loving father and an active community member. His wife, 30-year-old Lynn Hong, is described as a quiet, gentle, caring, and kind mother, deeply loved by family and friends. Also, their daughter, 5-year-old Katie Lee, she has been described as a joyful, vibrant kindergartner, so heartbreaking, with a big smile. Her 16-year-old brother, Andy Lee, was not at the festival and now is the sole surviving member of the immediate Lee family.
34-year-old Kira Salim was a school counselor and beloved drag king performer known on stage as Julio Fox. They were deeply involved in both the education and LGBTQ plus communities, remembered for their empathy, humor, and ability to uplift others. 60-year-old Glitza Maria Caicedo Samper was an immigrant mother from Colombia. She was the matriarch of the Samper family. Her husband, 65-year-old Daniel Samper, was known as warm, welcoming, and full of love for his family. Their 30-year-old daughter, Glitza Daniela Samper, is remembered as kind, caring, and loving, and had a deep love for animals. The whole family was at the festival, except for the brother Alejandro. So, again, three of his family members went to this festival, and he is now the only sole member of the family that's surviving. And this family was said to be super, super close. So,
Also, Riza Pega Canlungan, also known as Riza Azir. She was a Filipina immigrant and beloved community member, remembered for her strong spirit and kindness. Her family launched a fundraiser to help repatriate her body to the Philippines. Maria Victoria Vicky, also known as Vicky, Bjarnson, a mother visiting from the Philippines. She was attending the event with her son, Helgi, who survived. Vicky was remembered for her warm smile and generous nature. Jandel May Siko was identified as one of the deceased victims. Details about her personal life have been kept mostly private by her family, but we can say that we do know people that are family with Jandel, and we have seen a lot of posts, and just just what they're dealing with is devastation. In every photo, she's smiling, and it's very obvious she touched everyone around her with her loving kindness. Jennifer Darbelle was a mother of 2 young children, remembered fondly by her husband, Noel Johansson. Friends describe her as a devoted, joyful, and always present for her family.
These individuals came from different backgrounds, immigrant families, performers, educators, parents, but were all gathered in one place for the same reason, to celebrate culture, community, and joy. Their loss is deeply felt across Vancouver and beyond. In the days following the tragedy, Vancouver and all of Canada responded with overwhelming compassion and support. The province declared May 2nd an official day of remembrance. National and international leaders offered their condolences, community organizations opened 24-hour support centers, hosted healing circles, and created spaces for people to gather and mourn. But while the response showed the best of humanity, the event also shined a painful light on the gaps in our system. Kai-Ji Lo shouldn't have been invisible. He was part of the very systems designed to help. He had past psychiatric hospitalizations, police encounters, and warning signs that were known. Yet, there were no current supervision, no flagged risks, and no active care plan. He was known, but he wasn't being watched. And that's where the cracks start to show. Mental health professionals and advocates have pointed to a number of systemic failures that made this tragedy possible. There is a lack of long-term follow-up for people with complex psychiatric needs. Once a patient appears, air quotes, stable, they're often discharged with minimal monitoring. Community mental health teams are underfunded and overwhelmed, making it difficult to provide proactive care or identify escalating risk. The legal threshold to hospitalize someone against their will remains extremely high, even when loved ones see signs of decline. And there is a dangerous lack of integration between mental health services and law enforcement. Despite Lowe's history, there was no coordinated effort to monitor him across systems. Added to this is the cultural stigma that often discourages families, especially in immigrant communities, from seeking help or disclosing the full extent of a loved one's struggles. And there's no national red flag database in Canada that connects mental health, police, and social services in real time to identify people at risk of harming themselves or others.
So today, as we remember the lives lost, we also have to ask the hard questions. How did someone with a known serious mental illness go unnoticed until it was too late? Why are our systems still so fragmented, reactive, and stretched thin? And what responsibility do we all share, not just to treat mental illness, but to prevent the kind of isolation and despair that leads to this devastation? As of late June, 6 victims were still in hospital recovering. On July 8th, Kai-Ji Lo appeared in court via video as his lawyer requested access to psychiatric and forensic records to determine his fitness to stand trial. It was also confirmed that the day before the attack, he had interacted with police in a neighboring city, an encounter that was not considered criminal and did not trigger a mental health intervention. It is a lot to take in, and while no system is perfect, this tragedy has ignited urgent conversations across the country about how we can build one that doesn't just respond to crisis, but prevents it.
And in Canada, when someone commits a crime but is found to be suffering from a serious mental illness at the time, so serious that they couldn't understand what they were doing or that it was wrong, they may be found not criminally responsible, which also is a lot of the time referred to as NCR. So, unfortunately, right away, as soon as this happened, and as soon as it came out that he had extensive interactions with police and psychiatric, all the people, it is widely suspected that he may be found not criminally responsible for the attack due to his long documented history of serious mental illness. So, reports confirm he had previous psychiatric hospitalizations, ongoing struggles with psychosis, and multiple non-criminal interactions with police and mental health teams leading up to the incident. Given the apparent lack of motive, the nature of the attack, and the confirmed request for psychiatric and forensic evaluations by his legal team, it is likely his defense will argue that he was in a state of active mental illness at the time and unable to appreciate the nature or wrongfulness of his actions, meeting the legal threshold for an NCR designation under Canadian law. I gotta take a breath. While an NCR designation may legally reflect Kaiji Adam Lowe's mental state at the time of the attack, many, including us, believe such a finding would be deeply unfair to the families of the victims and the community at large. 11 innocent people were killed, including children and entire families, and allowing the person responsible to avoid criminal accountability, even if due to illness, just feels like such a devastating gap in justice.
It certainly does.
If someone can commit such extreme violence and eventually be reintegrated into society, what message does that send to those left behind? Canada urgently needs more secure, long-term mental health facilities, specifically for violent offenders, where they're places where individuals can receive care without ever posing a threat to the public again. And until we build a system that truly balances treatment with permanent safety measures, tragedies like this will continue to reopen wounds instead of healing them. So, while the NCR system is obviously, air quotes, designed with safeguards, there are real concerns, because especially when individuals who committed violent acts during a mental health crisis, especially with no motive, are later released back into the community, it's just there's so many questions. When someone's taken a life or multiple lives due to their mental illness and is later deemed well enough to live freely, it forces us to ask the question, are we doing enough to ensure that that person stays well? Are we doing enough to protect others? I don't know, because if it happened in the first place.
Well, the truth is, while most NCR individuals never reoffend, the stakes are so high that even one failure can have devastating consequences. It's not about punishment, it's about prevention. And I think that's the whole thing is as we're not preventing, we're reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that doesn't work.
No. And again, if you look at what I've talked about on absolutely every episode of this podcast, is yes, in the criminal justice system, we're like, oh, slap on the wrist. You just did that 6 times. Oh, well, you know what? Just go back in the community. We're going to rehabilitate you. We're going to allow you to go back into the community. And then they do it again. Obviously, this has a little bit of a spin, but personally, my own personal opinion, again, it is what you paid for it. Do you think that anybody that commits these violent acts does not have some kind of mental illness? Because to do half the shit we talk about, I'm pretty sure these people are mentally ill. All of them.
Something's definitely twisted off.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, right now, many believe the system still has a long way to go, and that is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest fear is, what if this happens again?
And who's responsible for it?
Well, people found not criminally responsible were not in control of the crimes when they committed the crime, and it's often because of untreated psychosis, schizophrenia, or delusions. With treatment, many do stabilize, but mental illness isn't always predictable. It's never predictable, really.
No, it's mental illness.
Yeah, and stability can change, especially if someone stops taking their medication, relapses, or becomes isolated again. And we hear time and time again, even people that I know that are living with mental illness, they start to feel so zoned out from the medication that they have to take, and then
it
they just
numbs
wanna
you, right?
feel stuff again, so they'll go off their
Yeah.
meds. And then the mental illness, it's a cycle.
And you're not thinking of the repercussions of going off your meds because in that moment, because you have a mental illness, you know, you're
Yes.
not thinking, oh, this is just better for me. If it's making you feel like not yourself, most people are like, you know, I don't think I need these meds. I think I've been great. I've been feeling great. And what if, like we were just talking about this, Mom, what if, like, let's say you are being monitored, you see someone once a month. Okay, what if the day after you see that person, you're like, you know what,
Yeah.
I feel great. I'm going to go off my meds and I'm not going to, and I don't need these meds. And then 2 weeks later, before you go see them again the next month, you're committing a heinous crime because there's things in your head saying like, oh, you know,
Someone's watching you or
yeah,
someone's. And the key concerns about releasing, not criminally responsible individuals are exactly that, a risk of relapse. Some psychiatric conditions, like schizophrenia, can return suddenly and without obvious warning signs. If someone stops medication or disengages from care, the risk of reoffending can increase, especially if their original offense involved violence.
hmm,
Because you have to think too, like, just knowing that you have committed these acts, I mean, that's gotta tweak something in there too.
exactly. And like we said, there's limited oversight once you're released.
Yeah.
After an absolute discharge, individuals are not really supervised at all. So that means there's no mandatory check ins, there's no tracking, and there's no legal obligation to stay in treatment. So if someone is like, oh, I feel great, I don't need to go to this counseling anymore, and no one's paying attention to me, it's like that's super alarming for the families and for the public, especially in high profile or severe cases, right? There's
Mhm.
inconsistent monitoring across all provinces. What if the person's like, you know what? I did this in BC and I feel like a change. Now I'm not being monitored. I want to move to Alberta or I want to
Yep.
move to Quebec or I want to move somewhere. It's like the oversight depends on provincial review boards and sometimes the lack of resources to follow people long term is going to have a devastating consequence. The criteria for reintegration, like supervised outings or community housing, can all vary. And, you know, not all provinces share data across agencies.
I'm
Most of
pretty sure
them.
none of them do.
No. So, victim notification gaps also, like the families of
Mhm.
victims often feel super blindsided when the person who harmed or killed their loved one is released. Canada doesn't have a national system to automatically like notify these families like, oh, hey, this person is going to be discharged. And again, public safety versus individual rights. Sometimes I think if you murder someone or you murder 11 people, you take out whole families, it's kind of, you know, where's the line between protecting civil liberties and ensuring community safety? Because, yes, I agree. People have, you know, we all have our right to be safe and protected. And that includes people who have harmed other people. But at the same time, where's the line,
Keep
right?
them safe in a community where they can't harm
Yeah,
anyone.
exactly. So many people feel that the threshold for release is too low, which I agree with,
Me
or
too.
that the more concrete risk assessment tools are needed before anyone is reintroduced into society. I actually feel like, again, it varies case to case, but when you do something violent and it's for absolutely no reason, even if it is for a reason, it's not usually valid. I feel like you should probably stay somewhere for a long time.
Well, and there's been some really notable cases in Canada, that have been brought to national attention with the use of the NCR designation in violent crimes involving mental illness. So I'll name a few. One of the most widely known is, Vincent Lee, who we did cover in an episode 24. In 2008, Lee killed and beheaded a fellow passenger, Tim McLean, on a Greyhound bus in Manitoba during a psychotic episode. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, Lee was found not criminally responsible in 2009. After years in a psychiatric facility and graduated reintegration into society, he was granted an absolute discharge in 2017.
So, what is that?
8
Nine
years.
years, 8 years, and he was
Yeah.
fully discharged for beheading somebody on a Greyhound and then cannibalizing him. Like, you
Yeah,
guys can go listen to episode 24, but like,
and now he was allowed to change his name. His name is now Will Baker, and he has no legal restrictions. Similarly, and this one was just in the news too.
And we haven't covered this case either, so.
Yeah, this one was a big one. Matthew DeGrood, he was a young man. He was very young when it happened. He fatally stabbed 5 university students at a Calgary house party in 2014 while in a psychotic state. He was found NCR and placed in psychiatric care. The reason it's been in the news lately is because, as of recent years, he's been granted unsupervised community privileges and lives in a group home in the community, prompting concerns among the victims' families.
Well, families, the public, right?
Yeah.
Like, kids go to house parties all the time. It's just like something where you can easily, even the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival, it's like, I remember watching and thinking, I've stood by food trucks like with my stroller,
Yeah.
with my family, with my kids. I've been at house parties. You hear about all these things and it's like,
That you don't think are dangerous to
no,
do.
no. And that makes you take that other step back. But now knowing that these people are just like, oh yeah, you did 8 years, 9 years, go back in the community, just is not, it's very unsettling. So
Well,
another,
and they're just like they're allowed before they're released without any conditions. I mean, there's a lead up to that with like
mhm.
daily outings and stuff like that.
Well, even I never remember this guy's name, but I don't really care to remember his name. But the man that was responsible for the rape and murder of 10-year-old Heather Thomas, he's able to just go freely and go do this and go do that and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and I know that I have said this probably a handful of times, but once you do that, especially something violent, especially something for that selfish sexual pleasure, you should never be allowed to
No.
fucking go anywhere. I don't care. I don't care if you're going to work. No, sorry, you should have thought about that before you did that. Another case that's really stirred national debate was that of Alan Schoenborn. So he killed his 3 children in Merritt in 2008, believing that he was protecting them from perceived threats. So again, obviously, mental illness. He was found NCR due to a delusional disorder, and he spent over a decade, which still not long enough, in psychiatric care and is currently being considered for escorted community outings. These cases have really raised questions, all the ones we've just talked about, right? They make you think, like, where's the balance between public safety and rehabilitation, victims' rights? Though the majority of, like we said, NCR individuals are safely integrated and pose no future risk, I really don't, I don't know. That's statistically what they say.
It's a big risk.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but our government loves to sweep things under the rug also. So if they're like, oh, hey, we just released this guy back in the community, how many times do we see, like that one fucking guy, Randall Hopley? He literally took a boy out of his room. And I didn't hear about it for years. I didn't hear about it for anything. I never heard what happened. I never heard his charge. I never heard anything. And then all of a sudden, it was like, Randall Hopley's missing and he didn't check in with his parole person. Well, no shit, because he wants to go probably do that again. And he's going to, it's like, who's watching these people? So high profile cases, especially involving children or multiple victims, have really prompted calls for stricter review processes, better interagency communication, and greater transparency around when and how individuals with violent histories are released back into their community. So when we talk about the NCR system, there's something that we really need to say. Not everybody, I don't know if you guys have gathered this already, but not everybody should be eligible to get out. Like, there are cases where the level of violence, the nature of the crime, and the unpredictability of a person's mental illness make it just too dangerous to ever justify full reintegration into the community ever again. And yet, under Canada's I'm just going to change the name to the country. Under Canada's current system, even those who have committed the most brutal, devastating acts can eventually be discharged completely, which is fucking bullshit. So we believe that Canada needs a category for permanent secure placement, not in a prison, because I don't think you get what you need in prison, especially when it comes to mental illness, but in a high security hospital, like a psychiatric hospital, that is designed specifically for violent NCR offenders. A place where they can receive treatment with dignity, okay, but not pose a threat to the public ever again. And this isn't something like about revenge or, but it's about accountability and public safety and realistic risk management, because this person has proven to you already that they can do these horrible, devastating crimes. And now they're just going to be like, okay, like you run into him at Walmart or something, Will Baker, like who knows if he's medicated, And even the fact that he was allowed to change his name, I feel
Well,
like
and
is,
that's just it. And like you wouldn't even know you were standing right beside Will
no,
Baker
no.
unless you heard his name was Will Baker and
And
then
he
you'd know.
doesn't really look like Will Baker, but anyway.
So right now the system leans heavily towards rehabilitation and reintegration, which is important, but there's no mandatory minimum time someone has to spend in care. So this is also the fucked up part. Like each each case is different.
Mm-hmm.
Some are released in under 10 years, and that's deeply unsettling when you consider what victims' families have lost, children's parents, and entire futures. And, it's all determined by individual boards. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm feeling pretty generous today, and,
Yeah. And that's like
you know,
with the eye of the beholder. Like if you're sitting there and like you're having a bad day and you're on this board, and you could be like,
I wish
no,
more people were having a bad
yeah,
day on
me
this
too.
board.
That's what I mean. Maybe all these people should have a bad day, because then they'd be like, no, you're not allowed to go anywhere.
So, I mean, the points we believe that Canada should expand its forensic mental health system by opening more secure long-term psychiatric facilities, because we did just close a bunch of them,
Yeah, which
you
probably
know,
not the fucking thing to do.
for high-risk offenders, implementing mandatory minimum treatment periods for those involved in violent deaths. So, yeah, like set some sort of guideline
Mm-hmm. Well, we
and
talked about this
creating
too on the for Justice for Noah.
yeah.
Remember, it's like the monitoring of child sex offenders. There should be no monitoring of child sex offenders. There should be them being in jail for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And that's exactly
And that's a
creating
mental illness.
a no release designation for the most extreme and high risk cases, similar to life sentences in the criminal system, but within a therapeutic model, which
Mhm.
is like, doesn't that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense to me. Maybe I should run for some kind of
Some kind of office.
yeah.
You heard it right here, folks.
Yeah,
Just
Tanika's gonna be
kidding.
the next prime minister. And I talk about myself in third person now.
I'll probably secure the position.
Yes.
The public deserves protection. Families deserve peace. And those who commit unthinkable acts, whether mentally ill or not, should face a consequence that matches the gravity of the harm caused, even if that consequence is carried out in a hospital rather than a prison.
Well, at some point we have to ask, like, is this system, which you guys know my answer, you guys already know my answer if you've ever listened to a episode of this podcast ever, is this system that we live in protecting the right people? Now, it's not cruel to say that some people should never be free again. It's just honest. And you guys know I love to be honest. Because as long as we keep treating these cases like they're just these rare exceptions, we're pretty much settling and setting ourselves up for more preventable tragedies to happen. So I really believe it's time for Canada to evolve, and not just in how we treat mental illness, but in how we protect protect the public from the most dangerous manifestation. So really, real meaningful change is possible, but it takes both public pressure and personal advocacy to, move the needle. So Canada's mental health and justice systems are, like we've discussed, they're often reactive, fragmented, under-resourced, but with coordinated efforts, we can influence policy, funding, and awareness. And there's some points we have, obviously. Again, it takes a village. And by this, I mean, it takes a country. It takes all of us to want change and reform in the system that we live in. So we can call for legislative reform, which would help advocate for changes to the criminal code and provincial mental health acts, mandatory minimum treatment periods for violent NCR cases, creation of a no-release designation for the most high-risk individuals, better interagency data sharing between health, justice, and police. So what you can do is you can email or you can go meet with your MP or your MLA, and you can urge them to support or propose stronger oversight laws and NCR reform. Because public pressure really works. And when it's consistent and personal, right? If you're showing up to your local MP or MLA office, if you don't know where that is, message me. I'll take where you live and I'll find one. I'm going to go. I'm going to go big and pregnant and be like, change these laws because this is ridiculous. And especially after, again, Mom just said, like, we have a huge facility here, but it's completely empty. The windows are all broken in it. Like, fix that shit up. Demand more secure psychiatric facilities. Like, Canada has a huge shortage of long-term forensic mental health beds, and that's why they're like, okay, just let them out because we have nowhere to put them. Like, push for government investment in high-security hospitals, not just community clinics. Like, the system can't safely manage violent mental illness without proper infrastructure. Like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to keep these people? So what you can do is you can support petitions and coalitions calling for funding to expand secure psychiatric care, especially for people who are found not criminally responsible after violent crimes.
We can also support victims' families and advocate for transparency. Many victims' families are not informed when the person who harmed their loved one is released. We need to push for mandatory victim notification in all NCR cases. Clear public records of NCR review outcomes. More trauma-informed support services for affected families. Because that's a thing, like, not only is it reactive when something happens, but when people are released and no one is informed, I mean, think about if someone's killed your family member and mentally ill or not,
And you
then
run into
you
them at the
find
gas
out.
station.
Yeah, or you find out they're out and you had no idea, like, that's your biggest nightmare come true.
Mm-hmm.
We need to raise awareness through podcasts, social media,
That's what we're
supporting.
doing.
Yeah, supporting organizations like Victims of Violence Canada or Canadian Resource Centre for Victims of Crime. We need to promote integrated risk management. So right now, there's no national red flag system to track high risk individuals across agencies.
Which is why
Ca-
everyone slips through the cracks,
well,
right?
and I think once people realize, like, oh, I'm just gonna go do this in this neighboring city, and then they do something and then nothing happens to them, that's when the individuals realize, like,
Clifford
oh,
Olson.
yeah.
Remember? He was literally going 15 minutes away from one city to the other and killing kids. And then the
And it was
government was
like,
like, here, let us pay you to tell us where you put. Like, what? It's
yeah.
crazy because they know they got away with it. It's like a kid. It's like a kid. If you know you get away with something, like we were just talking about, yesterday on the phone. If someone shoplifts and they're like, oh, you're scared at first, you shoplift, and then all of a sudden you're like, walking out of Walmart with whatever, and no
And you're
one's
like,
following you,
yeah, you're like,
and
I
you
could
got
just
away
got that
with it.
shit for free. Like,
That
let's,
is like on a minimal scale.
yeah.
So imagine if you're doing these horrific things. And again, I know we're talking about people who are not criminally responsible because of mental illness, but I feel like we all have a little mental illness. So who at the end of the day is responsible for the actions that we do?
Well, and like, aren't we in an age of like everything's computerized now, everything's shared, there's
Mm-hmm.
AI. Like, why the fuck don't we have everybody connected, with a national red flag system to track people, to share databases that link healthcare, social services, and law enforcement to better manage these dangerous psychiatric cases? Like, it's not saying that, it's not slander if it's private and you can go onto a computer and be like, oh, this person, look up someone's name and see what they've done in another city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they live in your city now, so
It's
would that.
relevant.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is relevant.
And I'm sorry, even if they don't live in your city, even if you live in Toronto and this thing happened in Vancouver and you just want to know about it, you should have the option to look up and see what this person has done or go to your, nearest police station and say, what if you have a
Exactly.
creepy neighbor to go be like, obviously, I mean, people will go to the extreme, but I think once you do something like that, we focus so much on your right as a Canadian. And I believe that. But I think once you do a certain act or you commit a certain crime, I think that if you're shoplifting all the time, you could be rehabilitated. I think something like that. If you're selling drugs, if you're, there's certain things that if you get caught for those crimes, that not say that they're not hurting anyone. Obviously, there's things, that's why they're illegal, right? They trickle down. They do still have effects and things in the community. But when you take a vehicle and you run through a crowd at 80 kilometers an hour and you kill 11 people and you injure 50, plus people, you probably should be somewhere forever and have your right to be out in the community taken away from you. But because clearly he needs some mental health help that he wasn't getting in the community.
Well, and I do believe, like, from what I've heard, his family was reaching out for help. He was being called on a lot. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that there was nowhere for him to go and no resources.
No, and another thing too is because of our laws, I know someone personally who is in the Vancouver Police Department, and they said their hands are tied when they're seeing this guy for the 15th time and they can't do anything because there's all these things surrounding them. Like, they can't press charges on this guy. They can't say, hey, you need to keep this guy somewhere because we think he's going to hurt somebody. Nobody in the VPD, and I'm not speaking for the whole department, but anybody that had, I'm sure, knowledge of this person was not surprised that he was the one that committed this horrible act. And I mean, not to justify this, I obviously don't agree with what this person has done, but there are triggers in people's lives that are going to affect your mental health, right? His brother was murdered, I think, just the last year. His mother then struggled with her mental illness. Clearly, there's something that, she tried to kill herself. She had a suicide attempt. Those things, when you already struggle with mental illness, and then you see these extensive police interactions and extensive psychiatric interactions where he's going to the hospital, he's being held, he's this, he's that. Shouldn't that ring some kind of alarm of like, hey, maybe this guy needs to be monitored?
We need to advocate for a federal level review of how NCR individuals are monitored.
Yeah.
And people that haven't done those crimes yet.
No, there's a guy recently in Vancouver who I think he attacked, I want to say, I know for at least, there was a woman walking, a tourist that was here, I think from like Eastern Canada. She was walking on the seawall, enjoying the beautiful views of Vancouver. And she was like, in her interview, she had like black eyes. She was beaten, like someone beat the shit out of her.
And that's
then,
happened several times on the seawall.
yes. And then the same guy did it again to someone else, but he was let out. Do you think that someone who goes up to people walking on the seawall and just beats the shit out of them is mentally healthy?
Fit.
Yeah.
No.
Do you think? Like, that's why I'm saying most people who commit the crimes like that have mental illness. Downtown Vancouver is so dangerous because of all the mental illness, and then you add, it's the layers, it's like the onion of like mental illness. But what do we see from mental illness? You see people using substances and having addiction problems because they are trying to combat their mental illness. And then you see all the drugs that are out most of them are toxic. Most of them are people just trying to self-medicate. And a lot of people downtown Vancouver right now are violent. They're taking shits on the middle of Granville Street, which used to be a nice neighborhood. There's people shooting up, like, it's like there's the layers to this go so much deeper.
I mean,
we
could go on for like 6 more hours.
Yeah, but that's
or
what I mean. 600 more hours we could be here. I might be really out of breath and I might give birth right in the studio, Dan. But Dan looks like he'd be equipped to deliver a baby. So
yeah, I agree.
I think it'd be fine.
Hunting knife.
Yeah. I think
hunting knife out, and I'd be there. I'd be present.
Yeah, Mom could come, so it's fine. That would give me peace. But I think that it's such a broad conversation that we're even having right now, just about, you know, the changes that need to be made just in the NCR category. But where's the line? Where do we draw? Like, yes, you're not criminally responsible, but you are still, there's still like a responsibility that needs to be, because like you said, right? The illness is its own thing, but the illness is in your body and your body is
Yeah.
the one that that did these.
That has the illness.
Yes. And that perpetrated the act. So where it's like, there's so like,
So, I mean, for actions that we can complete, I mean, we've already said a few of them, about, you know, bringing awareness to the legislative part of things. Use your voice. I mean, that's what we're trying to do right now to
mm-hmm,
shift public understanding. The more the public understands the risks and realities of untreated serious mental illness, the more support there will be for reform.
mm-hmm,
And we're using our podcast. If you have a platform, social media, I know I see people posting about mental illness on social media. If people can humanize and mobilize others, you know, maybe there's someone that you know that you're seeing spiral out of control that maybe you can help to get assistance for. I mean, we all kind of get frozen when we see things like this.
mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
exactly.
sharing survivor stories. Share your own story. Um, in expert interviews, case breakdowns, encourage people to demand action, not just sympathy. Change doesn't start with politicians, it starts with people. When enough of us say this isn't good enough, the system has no choice but to respond. Whether you're speaking up for victims, calling for better mental health care, or demanding public safety reforms, you are all part of the shift.
And what better way to honor victims of horrific tragedies like this tragedy than making change that we will see that this will not continue to happen? It's like Groundhog Day. Obviously, this one has been like probably the worst and most devastating and high impact event that has happened. But if anything, this should be a reason to advocate for change, especially when it comes to people with mental illness, which in my opinion is every criminal. Every criminal that does a violent act, they've all got some sort of mental illness, whether
I
they
think
know
we
it or
all,
not.
yeah, I
We
mean,
all have mental illness.
every
I think every
human
single
has,
person. Well, every single person has the ability to have a mental illness. We all have a
yeah.
brain, and it's just like a heart or a liver or kidneys or anything. Like, something can go awry. Something can happen with your body where all of a sudden you're not fit to make certain choices mentally. And if you think that you are, because that's what mental illness is, like, oh, I think I can go drive this car or take this turn or whatever, you know, there's so many people trying to say like, oh, well, why wasn't there, you know, big things protecting the area or this or that. There were little things protecting, but it was such a low risk. They thought it was a low risk event, right? So it's like it's again, there's layers, right? It falls into like the risk assessment and this and that and every single thing come together. But the main thing you have to take from this is that people with severe mental illness, especially when they see time and time again that they could do something devastating, they are not being monitored properly. So before they're charged, after they're charged, people with mental illness are just roaming free in our communities, and it's very dangerous, as we've seen, as we're unpacking in this episode.
Definitely.
Yeah, so.
So,
But this episode I really want to put out in memory of all the victims, every victim that was lost in the Lapu-Lapu Day tragedy, every victim that has been a victim of somebody who is struggling with their mental health that was not found criminally responsible. Obviously, we don't know the outcome of Kaiji Adam Lowe's trial because there's nothing that's happened yet. But with all of this predating stuff and all the interactions, it's just using our own opinion that that's probably what is going to happen, and looking at historical cases in the same light. where those people are already being considered for release, not even within 10 years, or out in the community like before 10 years even approaches. 10 years is nothing. When you're talking about all these lives that are lost, 10 years is a blip on the radar, right? People need to be away, getting the help they need, probably for the rest of their lives. So I guess that's that. I could sit here literally and probably rant and
Yeah.
talk about it, but yeah, so that was episode 64. And yeah, Mom, you got anything else you want to say?
I also just want the people that are still recovering from the events that transpired during the Lapu-Lapu festival, just to know that we're thinking about them and yeah, just to know that you're going through such a tough time, to know that someone is thinking of you and advocating for reform.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, again, we all collectively came together. There's so many things that you can reach out. I'll put a lot of them in the show notes of, where you can go to help, donations, advocacy, going to your MLA or your MP, reform, like trying to get things changed. There's, like you said, for the people who are still in hospital or still affected by the tragedies, there's fundraisers that are still happening. I saw the other day haircuts. There's Hades barber. One of their barbers was affected. He is still in the hospital. There's things that they're continuing to do to raise money to help these people, right? There's so many things that you can do as an individual that will help with the rest of these people's lives, or how they're getting through this, or anything. And if you or anyone is affected, there's resources that you can tap into. There's so many things. So I will note all those in the show notes. And yeah, we just have to we have to not just keep our fingers crossed. You have to get out and try to make a change. So that's what I'm going to be doing once I get my
Me
breath
too.
back. Go to the MLA and be like, listen, you need to make a change.
I'm going to sit on you.
Yeah, right now. That's exactly what I'll do. But,
well,
yeah.
I would just once again like to thank everyone for being patient with us and coming back. Hopefully haven't unsubscribed from us. And
hopefully we pop up on your feed or
yeah. And it's we're not just fucking with you. We really did this episode. So.
Yes. We did. Imagine they click it and it's just nothing. But what I really would love to ask of you guys, a big favor, is I want you to share this episode because of the message in the episode, right? There needs to be change, and there needs to be a push for change, and not just, listening, agreeing. But it's no, everybody needs to collectively come together and push for difference and push for our country to get its shit together. Every single part of our country right now is, my country, because Mom's not even here anymore. She got so sick of it, she left. But coming together, our healthcare system, you have to do your own pap test at home now. Did you know that?
What?
Yes, they send you a swab, and they're sorry, what? I'm sorry, I know maybe the men in here are not overly familiar, but what? Your own pap test? I'm sorry.
Oh
it used to be you get a pap test every year. What were the freaking things for? You're just, I'm so confused by that. But that's just that's just one example.
That's crazy.
Right? But it's there's so many things in the system where there's room for error and because our whole systems are falling apart because there's not enough people that are there's not enough doctors, there's not enough people to not enough psychiatric places to keep people, there's not enough, what the fuck is going on? I'm not doing my own pap test. No.
That's great.
Just a lot of gaps in all of our systems, and I really feel obviously we know that there's been a big political uproar, but I really feel like I'm going to steer away from talking about politics. Everybody probably knows how I feel about that. But it's just like all the other things in our system that need to be fixed. This is going to be the number one, right? Keeping our citizens safe, not doing our own pap tests. That's probably second. But it's like, what is going on? So yeah, let's all come together, try to advocate for change, and
share the episode.
Yeah, share this episode.
Well,
let you know how that goes, pap test, but I'm not doing it. Mom, you're lucky. Pay for your health care down there.
I don't have any health care down here. So.
Yeah. Never mind. I guess you're going to have to come home.
You can come and do my
I'll
pap
do your
test.
pap test. I got some speculums laying around. But like, what's up with that then? You know, you're just like, oh no, just like freaking, just like with the COVID test. Remember they used to be like, shove it all the way up there. And then they're like, no, you can just pretty much ring it around your nostril. That's pretty much what they're asking me to do. I'm like, oh my God. So
I believe that we are spiraling out of control at this moment in time.
Well, what's new? And I think that you know, I could really go on for hours, but anyway, I'm pretty out of breath and I'm very thirsty and I have heartburn.
It's been great to be back, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, we will talk to you soon. So with that, this has been episode 64 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Share this episode. Bye.
Bye.